You're feeling rich. Good. Vote for Labour then, because you're going to need to be rich. Unless, of course, you haven't got a gas boiler. But if you own your own home and you do have a gas boiler, you will be ripping it out and replacing it with a pump. I say rich, you don't have to be rich. 16 grand. Ain't an awful lot of money, is it? Got that kicking around, have you? All right then. So you rent your property. Landlord will pay for that. You think he won't pass it on in the rent? Dream on, people. Oh, let's go this way then. Have you got a petrol or a diesel car? Want to keep them? Not a chance, mate. Scrap them. Resale values are going to start to drop through the floor because people won't want them because you're going to have to go electric.
So, net zero. The government want net zero. The Labour government, the Labour Party wants net zero. Have a look on a map, on a geography map. Our small island, what's our small island gonna do to the world, to save the world? It's not, is it? Net zero is a con for the UK. For other countries, yes. For example, Russia, China, any big party, any big country. But for the UK, if the UK get to net zero by 2030, it's not going to achieve anything in the world. Like, what's it going to achieve? Nothing.
Isn't it great having scientists that don't do any actual science? They just do what their paymasters tell them to do. We saw this during COVID, and now we're seeing it during the insanity, the ridiculousness called net zero. Apparently, scientists are now planning on blocking out the sun over the UK for climate change. Blocking out the sun, I mean, we have like, what, a week of sunshine each, maybe 2 weeks if we're lucky, and they want to block out those 2 weeks of sunshine that we are allotted for something that is really extremely questionable. I mean, extremely questionable. Not only are there millions of us, literally millions of us, who are questioning the whole climate change agenda, but also they're squirting heavy metals and weird, unhelpful stuff into our atmosphere to do this. They're already doing it, and we know that they are in different parts of the country. But now they say they're going to do it across the whole of the UK. It's utter wicked insanity. We need to have a referendum on this. It can't be just something that they go, oh yeah, let's, rubber stamp it, with Ed Miliband going completely loony and going, yes, we've got to have all of this. No, we have to have all of us citizens saying yes or no to having poisons put into our atmosphere, because that is what it involves. It really does. So as far as I'm concerned, A, it shouldn't happen. B, if they want it to happen, we need to have a referendum. And C, we need to wake up to what's already going on in our atmosphere. It's not helpful, and we certainly don't need more of it. Do you agree? Tell me in the comments and follow me, because I've got some really good ideas.
What in the broken Britain net zero bullshit farcical nonsense is this? So, they've shut down all the coking coal mines in the UK. And they're now importing £700 million worth of coking coal from Japan to keep the steelworks open in the UK. Can you believe this? How much is that costing us? They could have mined it 200 miles away, got it there on a train, and continued to crack on. But no. This dude thought it was a great idea to shut down all the mines, and now importing it 7,000 miles to keep the steel mines going. We really are living in a virtual reality, aren't we? This isn't real. This is parody. These guys couldn't run a up in a brewery. As for Keir Starmer, he's saving Britain and its industries. Honestly, it's just hilarious at this point. And what can we do about it other than make TikToks?
Climate activists really piss me off. I'm sick and tired. Every time you put the TV on, you get somebody banging on about
net zero, including that Ed Miliband, who's insisting on it and covering our country in those disgusting wind farms and net blocking zero and all the rest of it right across the world now. All these activists have got hold of us, and people actually believe it's happening, and some people actually desperately believe it's happening. And of course, most people with a brain know it's not happening, and we're paying more and more for our energy because of it. Okay, which is ludicrous. So the question I'm going to ask is, do you believe in climate change? And if you do, are you prepared to pay the extra for your electricity, for your gas, for your water, for every thing? Or if you don't believe in climate change, okay, and you're down the middle like I am, you want to clean the world up and get rid of plastics, okay, and all that other pollutant crap, okay, but you don't want to have to pay extra for your electricity and your gas. Use coal-fired power stations, which by today's standards, the new ones are really black and clean, and coal is cheap. Okay, you could cut your bills, your fuel bills in particular, around about 75%, right? Particularly in the industrialised Western world, UK, Europe, America, Australia. Okay, what would you sooner have? Cheaper electricity or pay more through the nose because you believe in climate change, which of course we know is total bullshit. That's my opinion. What's your opinion?
Forgive me, for I am curious. When is the government, the entire political establishment of the UK for that matter, going to give up on this net zero greenhouse gas targets? At 2050 we're going to have net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Are we How are we going to get anywhere? How are we going to make anything? Oh, it doesn't matter. We'll fly around on magic carpets and we'll import everything. So therefore, the greenhouse gas emissions count on other people's tallies, not ours. Oh, problem solved. Well, it isn't. It destroys the economy, makes everybody's life even more miserable than it is. And you're all a bunch of Incidentally, why do we have to be taxed into oblivion on absolutely everything to pay for this total fallacy? I clearly fail to understand. If any of you can educate me, please, there's a comment section. Drop down there, let me know. I may be wrong. I may be missing out in the greatest opportunity for humankind. So if you think I am, please show me the error of my ways. Whatever your comments are, I look forward to reading them. Please, as usual, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.
Hey guys, Steve here. Got a little clip to show you about that Heathrow Airport shutdown. Now it turns out there's a little bit more to it. Not only could they not start their backup generators because they'd replaced all their diesel backup generators with biomass ones, which didn't work. It now turns out that that area was really close to just a blackout. There's no supply. We couldn't supply enough electricity for that area. And when you look at the amount of energy that we produce, we're importing on some days up to 25% of it. Now, if them imports weren't coming in, we wouldn't have enough electricity for the basic load that we need here in the UK. So those who believe that CO2 is a pollutant and that we need to rush to net zero as quick as we can need to think again, because net zero, while people are using food banks, are struggling to live a normal life, and we're wasting billions and billions on getting Chinese firms in to put up wind farms, solar panels and wind, whatever they're called, turbines. We're getting Chinese to do that. We're not creating British jobs. We're not trying to get the coal stations back up and running, because that's the only thing that's going to work, because it doesn't matter how many wind turbines you put up or fields of solar panels, you're not going to get the right amount of load that we need to run the country, as has just been proven in the last week. So when are people going to realise that this is just all bullshit?
Last week, We nearly ran out of the stuff.
Well, we nearly had a blackout, didn't we? I mean, we were talking to an expert on it this last Thursday, I think it was, and we came literally this close.
We came very close.
Voluntary blackout.
We were importing in the order of 17% of our electricity, I think last Wednesday, it was, at one moment, from our good friends, the French.
Yeah.
And that's probably not a smart thing to do, sending our money overseas.
No.
And it's, it's highlighting the absurdity of this net zero obsession that Labour are following the Tories' net zero obsession.
And this is what it says on the front page of the Times, that Labour is courting Chinese investment for its renewable energy revolution. And the former head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, is saying, this is a national security matter, and he's worried that Ed Miliband is going to do away with any national security concerns because of his mad, ideologically driven push to reach net zero. They basically want the Chinese to have all the wind power companies in this country, and they want them to put assembly plants all over the UK.
What's wrong with buying British? What's wrong with making British? The Chinese, they can't believe our utter negligent stupidity. So we're now sort of, buying Chinese wind turbines, buying Chinese solar panels by the few 100 million Mr. Miliband wants, because of course they can make it competitively over there because they've got modern day slave labour markets coupled along with cheap coal-fired electricity. So they're literally pretending at the whole renewables game to make themselves sound good, the big elitist global institutional events and Davos and places like that. So they tick all sorts of boxes and then they utterly shaft us.
There we have it. £222 billion. That's what's cost you and me, the taxpayer, for net zero so far. We'll break down the costs in a minute, but just think about what that money could have been spent on. Think about the poor young kids who are going hungry before school. Think about the poor veterans that we should be showing respect, and instead they're sleeping rough on our streets. Think about the NHS and the long waiting times and the lack of care. Where this money could have been spent is endless. But no, we chose to spend it on net zero. We as the UK spend around 17 billion a year, and it's set to rise to 20 billion a year just on levies, taxes and subsidies. Things like carbon tax, which we have a 55% carbon tax in this country alone. Now, carbon tax is a way of making fossil fuel energy more expensive, which therefore makes renewable energy more competitive. So they're outpricing us. They are making us poorer so that we have to buy this new renewable energy, solar panels, wind farms, etc., etc. Now wait until you hear this one. We have a £2 billion a year cost because our grid, our energy grid, isn't efficient enough to run the new renewable sources. So we are investing in renewable energy, bearing in mind our own grid can't support it. But still, it's a way of taxing you. I mean, these days you only really see 3 or 4 countries really pushing net zero. I think it's us, France, Germany, Canada, and maybe a few others. So really, do we need to have a thought about this? Are we spending our money wisely? Are we helping the fundamentals of our country that really do matter, like NHS care and education and policing? Or, what's the other option? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think we should be saving the planet at this rate that me and you don't actually have a life? Because we're spending so much of our tax on stuff that clearly isn't working. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think.
I want to talk very briefly about the problem with net zero. Before I get into that, my name is Cheryl and I'm a global ESG and sustainability expert for the built environment. So the problem with net zero is that it's a get out of jail free card, essentially. Most companies have no intention of changing their operations, but intend to just buy their way into meeting the goals that they have around net zero. So what does that mean? It means that they are just buying renewable energy credits or carbon credits in order to offset the amount of energy and the carbon that they've put into the planet. That's just not the way it should be done, and that's not essentially helping the environment, which is what many companies are claiming to do.
The government is not being straight with us. Not only does Keir Starmer keep claiming that the economy is improving when every metric shows it isn't, but now we discover They have known since they got to power that even according to their own projections, net zero will hurt this country beyond imagination. Not only will our growth be 10% lower than otherwise it would be, but national debt will balloon under the crazy targets of achieving net zero by 2050. Ed Miliband must know this. It's his own government's figures. And those figures make for really worrying reading. Not only do they state that the government will have to borrow more, that growth will be lower, but that businesses and individuals will have to bear the cost as well. Our energy bills will keep going up, our productivity and industry will keep going down. They state quite clearly that it is only achievable to hit the targets this government is so adamant we must by reducing our ability to grow, thrive and prosper. Before he was elected, Ed Miliband promised that our energy bills would fall by £300 under Labour. Instead of that, these documents that were put together by the government officials quite clearly show that our energy bills will go up, our public debt will go up, industry will suffer, and growth will be lower than it should be. Keir Starmer has a clear choice to make. Either he can back the Climate Change Committee and Ed Miliband in their zealotry to achieve the unachievable, or he can back the British people and the British economy. He needs to do the latter.
Britain has crude oil in the North Sea, so does Norway. We stopped drilling. They didn't. Now guess what? We're buying their oil and gas from the same sea at 3 times the price. While our own workers are unemployed and Ed Miliband smiles like he's just saved the planet. You just can't make this up. You're politically incorrect common sense commentator here, and today we're talking about the biggest self-inflicted wound in British energy history. Because in Net Zero Britain, we don't drill for oil and gas anymore. No. We let Norway do it from the exact same North Sea. Then we import it, pay through the nose, and pretend this is somehow saving the environment. Let's get into the facts. Yes, the UK has massive crude oil reserves in the North Sea, been drilling since the 70s. We peaked at over 4 million barrels a day. Then came the green blob. Now, we're producing less than a quarter of that. And declining. All thanks to Ed Miliband and his net zero pipe dream, where British jobs don't matter, domestic energy doesn't matter, and basic logic definitely doesn't matter. Meanwhile, Norway, same ocean, same rigs, same resources, but they kept drilling. They've got 69 fields pumping oil and gas out of the North Sea like there's no tomorrow. And guess who's buying it all? We are, at triple the cost, with no jobs, no tax revenue, and no clue. This is like sitting on a feast, then walking next door to buy scraps from your neighbour. We've got the oil under our feet, but because St. Ed Miliband wants to reach net zero, we're now importing oil from countries that drill more to meet our demand. So we're still burning the fuel, just with more emissions, more shipping, and less common sense. And guess what happens to the environment? Nothing, because climate change doesn't care if your oil came with a green speech and a smug look from the Labour front bench. It cares how much you burn, and we're burning more for less. Let's spell it out. Net Zero Britain stopped drilling for oil, but still uses oil from countries that drill more to sell it back to us at a higher price, so that Ed Miliband can tweet about the planet from his £2,000 iPhone. Meanwhile, our steel mills are shutting, our bills are soaring, and our workers are out of a job, all while Norway laughs its way to the bank, powered by the same North Sea we've been told is now morally off limits. This isn't green policy, it's green theatre. Britain's net zero delusion is killing jobs, raising prices, and outsourcing emissions, while people like Miliband get away with pretending it's progress. It's not. It's national sabotage with a smug accent. If you're sick of watching this country get ripped apart by eco-idiots, if you believe in energy independence, British jobs, and common sense over climate sermons, share this video, follow me, and subscribe on the link below to support and join the community. Because we've got oil, we've got gas. What we don't have is a government with a brain.
Did you know you pay more council tax on a £150,000 home in Hartlepool than you do on an £8 million mansion in Westminster? How does that make sense? The less you have, the more you pay. That's how council tax is working right now. It's not just unfair, it's making it more expensive to be less well off. This tax system is based on house values that haven't been changed since I was in nappies. Feels like we're in spin cycle, same broken tax year after year. Time for a tax that's simple, fair, and based on what your home is actually worth. That's what Fair Share is busy fighting for. Enough's enough. It's time we got this sorted. Head to Fair Share, tell your MP you're in favour of fairness.
It never makes me happy to say that the UK is a dump, but I've seen that the council in Birmingham is no longer collecting the refuse of the residents, and that whole streets are just jam-packed with trash, and there's rats now running around that are the size of dogs. Guys, this is unacceptable. I'm paying less than €200 a year council tax in Spain. They collect our rubbish 5 days a week for less than 200 a year. Make it make sense.
As you all woke up on this brisk Tuesday morning, you'd have all received your council tax bills via post, via email. I'm from Bolton. I just want to talk to you about this. Back in February, Bolton council tax bills in Bolton to rise by 5%. I then got an email, your council tax bill for the year 25 to 26. So I open the email just to look at the bullshit, what they're going to come out with. 5.5%, not 5%, 5.5%. I'm now going to be paying over £2,000 a year for something that I don't even know what I'm paying for. And then they tell you where the rises are, where your council tax is going to be going. So within a couple of minutes of reading that bullshit email, I then responded, and I have let Bolton Council know they will not be receiving a penny from me this year in council tax until they can fully explain to me where that £2,000 a year is going. Because they've dimmed the street lights, the potholes are an absolute disgrace on the roads, the area just turned into a shithole, the local town's a shithole, never see a policeman on the street. Where is it going? To be frank, they can sit on that. Has yours gone up? How much has yours gone up?
Guess who's back? Back again. Cancel tax. Warn a friend. So, I used to pay £179. I now have to pay £195. That's gone up by £16 a month. I mean, what the hell? The whole bill is £1,948.11. So paying for Powys County Council and Powys Police. Now, I know things go up all the time, and council tax goes up every year. But what for? What exactly am I paying for? Because I don't really see what I'm paying for. But yeah, £195 a month. Thanks.
Well, here we go again, guys. Council tax bills just come through, and it's gone up by 30 odd quid a month. So I'm paying 250 something pound a month now. Unbelievable. I mean, it just never ends, does it? I don't even know what to say anymore. When you look at the breakdown as well of the costs, I think it's something like 90 odd quid went to the fire service, then it was the police, and then the council, the local council, take like 1900 quid or something. Our bins get taken every 2 weeks, yeah. Every 2 weeks, not every week. They've implemented a thing now, it started last year, where you have to pay an extra 50-60 quid a year to take your green bin. So forget doing your gardening and then picking it up, you've got to pay extra, so I just never paid it, mate. So now you have to put it in bags, take it to tip, and then dispose of it there. The other issue is the amount of potholes are out of control. I remember a couple of years ago, I went over a pothole. The bang sounded like a shot going off in my car. Warning lights came up about 5 minutes after on the car. And about a couple of weeks later, I was doing 60 mile an hour down the road, lost control of the car. All the ABS went, all of these lights come on the car. Steering wheel malfunctions and all the rest of it. I nearly lost my life that day. I could have quite easily lost my life. If I send an invoice to council saying my car's, I now don't have a vehicle, can you replace the vehicle costs? They aren't going to do that. They're going to laugh at you. But if I don't pay my council tax, they come down on you like a ton of bricks. It's out of control, guys.
UK government hate children. Do you think child poverty is just bad luck? I've got to tell you, you're wrong. It's by design. Children and young people from underserved and global majority communities suffer the most. Right now, 4.5 million children in this country are in poverty. That's 9 children in every class of 30. 1 in 5 children provide unpaid care to parents or siblings with disabilities. 49% of global majority children live in poverty, compared to 24% of white children. Years of austerity measures have slashed community services, affecting underserved communities far more than others. And the ongoing attack to the benefit system is only going to make things worse, along with the failure to implement free school meals for all children. Children and young people are our biggest asset, and we are failing them horrendously. If you're ready to challenge the narrative and build communities built on inclusion and equity where all children can thrive, follow me, the anti-racist mum, for more uncomfortable truths. And let's take actionable steps together in our homes, our workplaces and communities to ensure inclusion and equity.
So I currently have zero remorse from those Labour MPs that have had the whip removed, right? Keir Starmer, a man that endorsed the starvation of more than 500,000 kids. Is he going to really care about 330,000 of them here? No. You guys all knew what he was about. We have been saying it from the beginning. He's not Labour. In fact, he's probably worse than a Tory. And this is just the beginning of what Labour is going to look like, with Keir Starmer as their leader. Or as some say, Kid Starmer. So you know what? Especially for those Muslim ones, we would have had so much more respect for you guys had you stood as independents at the GE. So a part of me actually says, a hard lesson learned, right? Or probably not. Maybe in 6 months you guys might crawl back to like Labour again. But yeah, we all told you what he was about, and slowly it's being revealed. This is just the beginning.
So even before Rachel Reeves's benefit cuts, 4.5 million children, a third of children in this country, are living below the poverty line. Obviously, after the benefit cuts, this is going to be worse. Now, there is now a bigger gap between rich and poor since before the Napoleonic Wars. In effect, the last 20 years of governance in this country, and I don't see any discernible difference between Labour and Conservative, have just rolled back any benefits that were gained by the compromises made by the ruling elites because of the Industrial Revolution, any moves that were made because of trade unionism, and we've actually reverted back to what Wacont calls normal behaviour, like the 1940s to the 1980s, when we had a welfare system, has now totally disappeared, and we've reverted back to normal. Yeah, and normal being a very small elite of the extremely rich, and almost total eradication of the middle classes and everyone else, the poor. They've done it over since the 1980s, since Thatcher. They've managed to turn back all of the gains made by the working classes. and it's only going to get worse. What do you think? This is why I'm actually interested in criminology, because criminology actually talks about this. Criminology talks about the constant war on the poor. This constant kind of rich versus war battle that's so downplayed by our media, we don't even know it's happening. What do you think anyway? I would like your opinion. Leave it below.
Great Britain is not great. What we actually are is a country with a culture of exceptionalism. By that, what I mean is we have a culture of believing we're more powerful and influential than we actually are. So a lot of people have been commenting on my stuff saying, if Britain's so shit, why do refugees move here? Why do so many migrants want to move here? I'll tell you why. Yes, if you're a refugee escaping war or persecution, obviously Britain is going to be a more desirable place. And that isn't something that we should take for granted as Brits. Britain is still a major economy and we do still have a lot of soft power. But the reason for this is because of our history. And our history is the reason that we have this exceptionalist view of our place in the present day. A lot of British people really overestimate Britain's role in the world. Yes, London and our accents might be romanticised, but we really aren't this loved, desirable nation or the envy of the world. And this exceptionalism is evident across the political spectrum, whether it's the right-wing people that sort of cling on to these notions of empire, being like, yes, we're Britain, we conquered a quarter of the world, or the left who hamper on about the NHS like it's this perfect deified institution that everybody in the world envies, even though it's a fundamentally flawed healthcare system that's in major decline. And that's not the fault of the workers of the NHS who work incredibly hard in an institution that is just a political football for our political elite. Think about it. We call ourselves Great Britain and we're a tiny island. Why are we doing that? Because we think of ourselves as powerful and mighty. It's the reason that Brits have a bad reputation abroad and have a tendency to think that everyone should speak English instead of bothering to learn the local languages. And yeah, this isn't just unique to Britain, it's happened throughout history, whether it was Mussolini's Italy trying to reclaim the glory of the Roman Empire, or whether it's Putin now trying to reclaim the glory of the Soviet Union. But in the case of the UK, as a Brit, you need to be aware of how that legacy influences the way we think about our place in the world. Like I said, be mindful of the privileges that we do have, i.e. we have a decent enough supply of food, our environment doesn't put us at risk of natural disasters, and we're not at war. But more importantly, bear in mind that life should never be a race to the bottom, and the fact that you were born into a privileged and developed nation shouldn't stop you from desiring to have a better life or better the country. And if you live in Britain right now, you've probably noticed that it's a fantastic day outside, so take advantage of the fact that we can drink in public and go and have a tinny in the park. And if this post got you thinking, drop a comment below.
Hey, what's up everybody? So guys, this weekend, the clocks go back 1 hour. I wish I could take it back to 1940, when this country had bollocks. So what I've seen over the last couple of weeks on the news is absolutely shocking. This government is making this country fall apart. Absolutely pathetic left wing. I also cannot believe how many snowflakes what surround us on everyday life. There's so much disrespect in this country. And I blame that on the parenting. I really do. When I was growing up, I had a strict upbringing. But I respected my parents. I respected everybody around me. This day and age, nobody respects anybody. Yet, when you go to Thailand, there's so much respect shown. This country is falling apart. And I, for one, will be absolutely thrilled to pieces when I finally get out of this place. Peace out, everybody.